So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell's coaching staff in particular has a huge emphasis placed on competition, right? If you come in, whether it be as the number 2 overall pick or an undrafted free agent, you have the opportunity to beat out the player in front of you on the depth chart and earn your roster spot and earn some playing time, right? We saw that last year as Jerry Jacobs and AJ Parker, undrafted free agents, beat out NFL veteran Mike Ford, who at the beginning of the offseason seemed to be a lock for the football team, right? We saw undrafted free agent Brock Wright beat out Darren Fells as the primary tight end too, to the point where Darren Fells was released from the Detroit Lions midway through the 2021 NFL season. We saw Amon-Ra St. Brown, a 4th-round rookie, outplay guys that were ahead of him in the starting lineup during the initial rookie minicamp, and we saw many underrated and young players that weren't necessarily high draft assets turn into contributors for the Lions a season ago. And with that being the case, with all of this competition occurring in Allen Park week in and week out, there are of course going to be a lot of roster battles, and there's going to be a lot of excitement regarding who will play what position and who will play the most snaps. Now, obviously not every position has a roster battle, right? QB1 is locked in. The offensive line is essentially locked in. I would say tight end 1 is a guarantee for TJ Hockenson, and I would say more likely than not, tight end 2, at least to start the season, will be Brock Wright. I think that, the secondary, right? Amani and Okudah are pretty safe at number 1, but even that has a little bit of competition. And today we're going to talk about the biggest roster battles going into week 2 of OTAs, and of course going into official training camp in just a few weeks. So with all that being said, all the intro stuff out of the way, let's get into taking a look at the Detroit Lions' biggest roster battles for the 2022 preseason. Now, first things first, wide receiver I think is going to be the most interesting and the most engaging positional battle for a lot of fans, right? And although I would say DJ Chark is maybe not a lock, but at least very heavily, understood to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense, wide receivers 2 through 6 are kind of a jumbled mess, especially considering that 12th overall pick Jameson Williams likely will not play for the first couple of weeks. So with that being the case, wide receiver 2 through 6 can be any number of players, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quintez Cephas, and Josh Reynolds all have that potential to be the wide receiver 2 as they step onto the field in week 1 versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Wide receiver 3, the primary slot receiver could be any of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Quintez Cephas, or Khalif Raymond, right? Josh Reynolds could be the wide receiver 2, or he could be the wide receiver 5, right? Khalif Raymond could be the wide receiver 3 or the wide receiver 6. Amon-Ra St. Brown can be the wide receiver 2 or number 3, either on the boundary or in the slot, and there is a ton of competition at this particular spot because all of these guys proved themselves a year ago, and then the Lions went out and they made some key additions, right? Last year, Quintez Cephas played and played very well. Khalif Raymond played at his career high in yards, receptions, pretty much every statistical category last year was a career high for Khalif Raymond, and obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown broke out a season ago as a top 5 rookie wide receiver. Now you add into the equation DJ Chark and Jameson Williams, and now you're really stuck and have a hard time deciding what players are going to play, right? Are you going to play Quintez Cephas, who was having a wide receiver 1 type year before his injury? Are you going to take off Khalif Raymond, who just saw career type production? Are you going to take Josh Reynolds off the field, who helped Jared Goff become far more confident and far far better as a quarterback as the year went on, making him more comfortable and confident in his ability to push the ball down the field. And of course, you got to get your new guys touches, right? DJ Chark is your presumed wide receiver 1. Jameson Williams, you just spent a top 15 pick on. Once he's healthy, you have to get him the football. And I think depending on how this wide receiver room works out, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a starter from a season ago that wasn't playing for the Detroit Lions come the regular season. If the Lions decide to only hold 5 wide receivers, that would mean one of the starters from last year is no longer on the roster. So I think this positional battle in particular, not necessarily for wide receiver 1, but for starting time at the wide receiver position, is going to be huge for the Detroit Lions. And while I all think they will have an impact, we are going to have to watch them fight and scratch and claw for each and every snap that they can take, because a lot of them have different skill sets, and we're going to have to see what skill set that Dan Campbell and the coaching staff prioritize over the others. Now, linebacker 1, I think, is the most obvious positional battle this offseason, right? There is no wide receiver 1, but there is a lot of versatility at the linebacker position, right? Alex Anzalone and Malcolm Rodriguez can cover. Derek Barnes and Jarrod Davis are both sideline to sideline guys that tackle really well and can blitz and get pressure on the quarterback. Julian Okwara and James Houston are both pass rushing guys that can really get into the quarterback, can play the pass rushing role, can play off-ball linebacker. They both have some versatility from that standpoint. And then, of course, you have Chris Board and Josh Woods and even Anthony Pittman as special teams guys that might not be as far away from playing significant defensive snaps as some people would have you believe. The linebacker 1 role is completely up for grabs, and there has not been a starter named to this point. And honestly, I could see Jarrad Davis starting. I could see Derek Barnes starting. Alex Anzalone could start. Malcolm Rodriguez could start. Julian Okwara could start at linebacker. Even a guy like James Houston could see some significant time at linebacker with his versatility. So I think that competition there, I think, will be the most impactful on the defensive side of the ball, right? The signal caller, the leader in the middle, the guy that you have to have calling your plays, and the guy you have to have getting your defense right has to be the best player for the position. And right now, there's no clear favorite for linebacker 1 in this defense and in this roster. I think the starting front 7 is also going to be very interesting, because much like the wide receiving core, at this point there is too much depth for the Detroit Lions, and they inevitably are going to have to cut somebody in order to make room, and they are only going to be able to play 4 or 5 guys at a time when they are 7 to 8 starting players deep, right? Aiden Hutchinson, Romeo Okwara, Charles Harris, Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike, Michael Brockers, Josh Pascal, Austin Bryant, and the player that they signed off waiver wires yesterday or 2 days ago makes 9 pass rushers, all of whom could realistically start somewhere in the NFL. Right? Austin Bryant had 4.5 sacks a season ago in a limited pass rushing role. Julian Okwara had 5 sacks a season ago, and he wasn't even pass rushing every single time he was on the field. You just spent your top waiver wire pickup ability in order to bring in the player from Atlanta that over a quarter of the NFL was bidding in order to get. Josh Pascal, Aleem McNeil, Michael Brockers, and Aleem McNeil and Levi Onwuzurike are all going to be fighting for the 2 interior defensive lineman spots. Romeo Okwara, Aiden Hutchinson, Charles Harris, Austin Bryant, and even Julian Okwara are all going to be fighting for that edge rushing position. There is so much depth in this organization right now at the edge rushers and in the front 7 in general that the Lions are going to have to not only put somebody on the bench that deserves some playing time, but they're going to have to cut some players that deserve playing time. And they're going to have some big players picked up off the waiver wire as they cut players. Austin Bryant is a legitimate candidate to get cut right now, despite putting up career production a season ago and still being on his rookie contract. Right? Despite putting up 4.5 sacks, multiple pressures, multiple QB hits at just 26 years old, going into his 4th year of NFL play on a 4th round rookie deal, Austin Bryant is very much on the chopping block right now, especially after the pickup from a few days ago. And honestly, I couldn't tell you the starting 4 right now, right? Because I think Hutchinson deserves to start. I think Romeo deserves to start. I think Charles Harris deserves to start. Aleem and Levi and Michael Brockers all deserve starting time this year because of the work they've put in and what they produced last year, right? There are too many good players to put on the field for the Detroit Lions. So that roster battle to see who the best of the best is and and who is going to start on the defensive line, it's going to be very fun to watch all 8 to 9 of these guys play to earn not only a spot on the field, but a spot on the roster at the end of the preseason. And then I think DB is also a lesser competition battle. He's a little bit lesser of a competition because I think Amani has the cornerback 1 locked up. I think Tracy has the safety 1 locked up, but other than that, I think it's up for debate, right? Okudah is the obvious favorite for cornerback 2, but Jerry Jacobs played too well a season ago to go unnoticed. Ifeatu Melifonwu played really well a season ago when he was asked to do so, and that can't go unnoticed, right? Deshaun Elliott is the brand new player, but Kirby Joseph was a 3rd-round pick, and Will Harris played over 1,000 snaps a season ago at the safety position. Plus, with Ife moving to safety potentially full-time, that adds 5 safeties right there that are all competing for starting time and all competing for starting spots in a safety set that's likely going to have 2 safeties at a time, 3 at the most, seeing the field, right? AJ Parker was a starting slot cornerback who got hurt last season, but when he was on the field, he was really, really good. But now you have to think, okay, Okudah could potentially win that slot job. Okay, Mike Hughes could win that. Chase Lucas might win this slot, right? There's a lot of different players. Even Jermaine Waller, the undrafted free agent from Virginia Tech, could potentially win that starting slot role for the Detroit Lions. And I think as far as cornerback 2 through cornerback 7, there is realistic competition where Jerry Jacobs could be cornerback 2, cornerback 4, cornerback 6. Mike Hughes could be cornerback 2 or cornerback 5, right? AJ Parker could be the slot. He could play, he could be the backup to the slot. Ifeatu Melifonwu could be the 5th safety or the 2nd safety by time camp ends. There is so much competition and so many different good quality players at these positions as of right now that somebody's going to have to lose their job and somebody's going to have to be cut from this team. And honestly, I don't know who the Detroit Lions are going to release at this point. But with all that being said, those are the major camp battles, right? Wide receiver, as far as wide receiver 2 through 6, cornerback 2 through 7, safety 2 through 5, right? All of the depth positions on this team are up for grabs at this point, and any player can be the starter or can be the backup at this point. As far as the edge rushers, somebody's going to have to get cut from that roster because there's simply too many players in order to realistically hold everybody on the roster, which is 53 roster spots. And then, of course, linebacker 1 is the only real position we don't have a starter for yet in the NFL preseason. So with all that being said, that is life for you guys today. Those are the biggest roster battles to keep an eye on going into camp. Wide receiver, corner, front 7 stuff, and front 7 guys in general are the players you want to keep an eye on because there's a lot of depth and a lot of talent at these positions, and any number of players could start for the Lions against Philadelphia. But with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about these camp battles down in the comments below. Let me know your depth charts or your depth chart predictions as far as how these roster battles are going to end in the preseason. Be very curious what you guys think. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.